Hey guys, what's up? Chemistry here. In this tutorial I'll be going through the same kind of bass mixing as I did yesterday, but I'm going to concentrate a little bit more on a general genre because I kind of realized that what I was doing is really more for trance as far as the bass kick kind of relationship goes. So for this one I'm just going to try to give the basses maybe a little more oomph because it seems as though people want that more than clean kind of low basses. But anyway, like last time, I have everything set up. The kick I'm using is not a trance kick, so it's rather, I don't know how to say this, but it's not quite as powerful on the low end as a generic trance kick would be. Of course, it does have low end release just like any other kick, so it's just a breakbeat 49 from VC3. Have a close hi-hat, open, and a clap. They're already mixed in, and the kick is hitting right below 0 decibels, and the other instruments are kind of following that. If you kind of want to hear what that sounds like. So that's just a basic kind of electronic beat, but now I'm going to make the basses with you guys to just kind of show you quickly what they would kind of sound like. So I know some of you don't actually use silence, and I'm not going to take any time with this, but for the low bass I'm going to try to make kind of a sharp, kind of, not sharp, but kind of a sine noise, low noise thing. So I'm going to use triangle for the first oscillator and have 8 voices and detune that a little bit. That should probably be lower. It's not going to be very much. And then I'll get sine here. Also going to change the octave down a little bit. Maybe not on the triangle. So you can hear that the sine is just making extra noise on the low end. And then I'm going to have a saw on the low end. It's probably going to be turned down a little bit too. Just for a little extra sharpness. Maybe I'll just cut off the... There we go. Anyway, that will be good. So this is more just low end instrument, and it doesn't have to be perfect because it just has to have a relatively high amount of low end. Anyway, I forgot to rename this. This is going to be the low bass, and this one is going to be, I don't know, high, mid. But yeah, speaking of high basses, we're not going to use 1 for this because most electronic music doesn't use the high bass as much. I just included it in the last tutorial so everything would be there, but you don't have to use it anyway. So, alright, so low bass is kind of a low sine. I'm just going to make a quick, what is it, sequence, chord progression. It's going to be like that. Notice how I'm actually not using like any type of groove, it's just long notes, and that's usually how it goes, but we're also going to add compression, sidechain compression, and that's going to make that offbeat kind of sound. But this should sound relatively similar to the stuff that you might already be listening to. Didn't mean for the beat to be in there. Anyway, that should be good. So yeah, we're still gonna do some EQ, and we're still gonna cut off some low end, but definitely not as much. We're gonna cut off kind of like what we did with the trance kick, about 45-ish, 40 hertz just so the low noise is not there anymore. And then we'll just kind of make it kind of come up like this, you know, and then we'll boost around the bass, low bass area. And I mean, I know I'm making these weird shapes with all these, and I should probably just be using 1 or 2 numbers for this, but I'm doing this the hard way. Anyway, just something like that. So as long as it's nice and low, you can also add certain things such as blood overdrive. I'm just going to hit the boost preset, or is that the right one? I'm not even sure. Boost, this one. Anyway, that should be good. And then we're going to add the important limiter, which is going to serve us for the sidechaining compression effect. So I already taught you guys this in a sidechain tutorial, but I know some of you probably haven't watched it. So what you do is you go into the kick channel. You have to link the kick to the mixer first, of course. And then with the kick channel lit up, you have to go down to the low bass without clicking on it. And hitting this arrow right above the effects button, and then you'll see that this knob will show up, and you just turn that down. Usually it'll be up here, but you just turn it down because sometimes that will like kind of double the kick, but that's not what you want. So you just turn that down. At least that's what I do. And then you go back into your low bass, and you'll see that the knob's gone, but that little thing is there. She would be there anyway, but yeah, it's still like connected, the kick and the bass. Then on the limiter, you want to hit compress, or the COMP. Move the sidechain up to 1, and then these 3 knobs here. This is what you mess around with. Now I'm going to do it the way I would usually do it, and that's by taking the ratio and knee and move it up to the right a little bit, and then the threshold down to, this area, from here to like here, I guess, and just play around with these 3 knobs until you get something that you like. To test this, all you have to do is hit the kick on each 4 steps. I wouldn't use this at any other point or any other situation, because if the kick wasn't hitting at 4 steps, then it would just sound really weird. But yeah, I'll just play it for you guys, and I think this should sound alright. I'll mess around with it. But yeah, what this is doing is just when the kick is hitting, the volume on the low bass is ducking to a low point, and it is determined by the threshold and all that stuff. But yeah, so it should sound something like that. The low bass, I think, is turned down a little too low, so you can mess around with the volume. But yeah, high point would be about -4 to -3 as a high point on the low bass. But that's not the only bass that we're going to be working with. We're also going to have a mid bass, right? So for the mid bass, you usually have some sharper or squarish. That's just the init preset. So I'm going to just keep it at an offbeat bass. Alright, just copy paste that. Alright, so it should look something like that. And then I guess I'll just make this one as well. So I'll just do that really quick. So first one, I'll just have a saw. Also, this bass will be about an octave higher than the low bass. Alright, so it's already linked to the mixer, and I'll EQ that. As for EQ goes, for this, you usually just cut off around the low bass section, since this is a mid bass, right? So around 100 hertz. The oomph is already established with the low bass, so we don't really have to worry about that as much. So we'll just, yeah, but cut off around, let's say 85 to 100 hertz. Boost the midsection just a tad, or bass to midsection, and then lower the upper midsection as well, something like that. Anyway, that should do the trick. But yeah, so we have the low bass, which is the bass that causes the most oomph. It's usually a very low sine, kind of sharpish, or sharp sine, which is a triangle sound. The EQ might look a little bit like this, just kind of still cut off the very low end and a bit of the low bass, but definitely much less cut off and a lot of bass boosted. Well, not a lot, but you know what I'm saying. Also, having a low octave also helps with the oomph. You can't have oomph at C5, if you know what I mean. It has to be, you know, C4 or C3-ish to have that. And the mid bass is kind of like a support sharp noise. So all together, hopefully this will sound good. I'll probably have to balance them out together, but it should sound like this. Alright, so now I did just make those instruments from scratch. I don't know if they're really the best for this tutorial, but I allowed more low end on my low bass because of the kick not being quite as low end. Well, it just didn't have as much low end in it, right? So for that reason, I allowed my low bass, or my basses in general, to have more low end. If I was making trance music, then the kick usually already has a lot of low end release on it, and it's for that reason that I usually like to cut off the basses a little bit, because it leaves more room for the kick to breathe and let out that low end alone. Because if I wouldn't have done that, then the basses would have tried to release their low end together with the kick, and that can cause some stress. But as far as this kick goes, just something like that, it's usually not a problem. It usually sounds better together with, you know, compressors and stuff, so learning how to use that is good. I do use compressors at some points, usually towards the mastering of a song. I know I should, but I don't usually use single band compressors individually on certain basses and kicks, probably because I don't have the highest knowledge when it comes to compressors, or how to, I know what they are and stuff, but I just don't know how to benefit from them as much. But I think I'm doing alright without the single bands, but I do use it for mastering anyway, which after the mix is done and you move on to the mastering, that usually helps out your basses a lot. So maybe that's why when you listen to a song it always sounds better, and that's because I went through the mastering process. So, you know, don't forget that. But yeah, that's about it. I hope this helped for those that did not see much benefit from my last tutorial as far as you know, like their genres and stuff went. You don't have to have this exact, you know, chord sequence and stuff. I use the long notes for the low bass because of side chaining compression. If I wasn't to do that, then it would really get in the way. You know, if you have a bass that's hitting at the same time as a kick, then that usually causes a lot of stress. So that's why I use the side chaining for that. But yeah, that about concludes the tutorial for today, guys. I'm going to go on the thing I just made earlier that you know, I made myself, so you guys can kind of listen to maybe a better version. So I'll just go to that in a second. So anyway, see you next tutorial, video, song, whatever, and goodbye.